All right, so I would like to present to you Clark Peterson, and the next presentation is the power of CPaaS in enhancing your business opportunities. And I'm going to allow the panel then to introduce themselves as well.
All right. Yeah. Have a chair. If you're on the panel, you're not some bomber on the panel, then you can join here. All right? You can come join us here if you're invited. But yeah, that's right. But hey, welcome everyone. We're going to talk about CPaaS and the future CPaaS. And my name is Clark Peterson. Really happy to be here and moderate this, and also just love the subject of CPaaS. So we'll go through here and make sure you got that. Have introductions here. This is our illustrious panel here. You can see here. We'll go through and make introductions. But just to preface the panel. So as far as introductions myself, I've been in communications about 30 years. Started off in the very beginning with Cellular One, and the guys who built Cellular One, we sold that to AT&T, and it became AT&T Wireless, and then started Nextel and Nextlink, another company that became XO Communications, and first employee of Clearwire, which became High Speed Wireless Data Network, and then I started a UCaaS company called Telesphere. I CEO of that, sold that to Vonage, and that was what kind of Vonage's entry into the more of the mid to large enterprise business. And then I was president of Vonage Business for about 3 years and retired last July. Now I serve on different boards, but I've watched a lot of industries evolve, and I've been at the beginning of a lot of these different communications industries, and so for me, as I've watched UCaaS evolve, and UCaaS, when I started Telesphere, was about 13 years ago, and I'm now chairman of the Cloud Communications Alliance that Dean and others are members, or on the board of the Cloud Communications Alliance. So I now see how this is all evolving from the UCaaS, CCaaS, CPaaS side, not only domestically here in the U.S., but globally. And I'll tell you, I'm very excited about what's happening on the CPaaS side, and I see CPaaS, a lot of it, as where UCaaS will start to kind of be displaced a lot by what's happening on the CPaaS side. And as I look at CPaaS starting to be viewed as the application, the platform that allows people to communicate platform to platform at an API level versus dialing phone numbers, it's only makes sense to me. And as I look at, I have three kids kind of between teenage and early 20s, and they're the kind of kids that if I call them, they don't answer the cell phone. They just text me back and say, "What were you calling about?" Right? And that's the way they're just used to messaging. They're used to not talking on the phone as much, and they're used to being in a platform all the time. They're either on Instagram or Facebook, or they're at work on Salesforce.com. So they live in platforms and they communicate out of platforms. And I think that's a lot of what CPaaS will do in the future, and communications will change from dialing numbers and going through PSTNs to communicating out of platforms and having much more contextual information about it. As someone calls in, say they hit customer care from a website, they're not just calling blindly now into customer care and they say, "Hi, who's this?" Right? They actually come in and it can help them understand. I was on page 3 of your website looking at a blue shirt, and I clicked extra large and it said you're out of stock, and then all of a sudden I hit this button that says I want to chat with a customer care person. All that contextual information comes in through a lot of these abilities that you see platform to platform and contextual information, and it's so much more intelligent than a traditional phone network that might just say, "Here's the caller ID of who's calling," and that's about as much as I know about you, right? So CPaaS becomes a very intelligent way to communicate as we move forward, and communicates out of platforms that you're living in at that time versus having to look up phone numbers and things like that. So to me, it'll be very disruptive and very exciting what's going to happen on the CPaaS side here as we go forward. I'll make introductions, and then I'm gonna give you a few stats, and then we'll kick off some of the questions. But why don't we go ahead here, start from my left to right here, make introductions.
Good morning. My name is Mark Diaz. I'm the CEO and founder of Vinix. We are a nationwide unified communications platform provider for businesses of all sizes. And our simple goal and mission is to provide solutions to businesses of all sizes and all of their business communication needs. Simple as that.
My name is Josh Robbins. He already gave me the simple. My company is Simple VoIP. Try to make it very simple for our customers. We are very niche focused on retail and restaurant chains, so large national chains where everything looks the same. I'm just kind of a baby in this industry. Only been doing this for about 16 years, half of Clark's. But I started my first UCaaS, we called it Hosted VoIP Company, in 2003 when VoIP, I think, was a 4-letter swear word. Eventually sold that to a company called M5 in New York, and then we sold to ShoreTel shortly thereafter. Took a little break and then came back for round 2, and that's where I am right now, focusing on retail and restaurants.
Alex Zakharenko from VSR. Yeah. Right. Green. Oh, mute. Alex Zakharenko. We're in Northern California, and we mostly sell service and business integration to the hotels, but we're open to any type of business. It's just our specialty, much like yours was restaurant, ours is hotel.
And I'm Harold Vance with VoIP Innovations. So we are the VLEC up here, and so we're the guys that are providing the numbers and things across the U.S. and country as a whole, as well as global. We do have a dabble where we're getting into this, mainly because if you think about back in the day, the Twilios of the world, and I started out with a company called Voxio Labs, which became Tropo, which became Cisco. Then I was at Telestax as well as SignalWire. So I've been just about everywhere on the API, the CPaaS side of the house, in kind of the role that I'm in today, which is global customer success. So it was my job to help them come through it. But if you think about it, a lot of the times the customers that you have out there, that you even have today, they're getting over the top by going to somebody other than you. 2600 has a lot of APIs, so it's really rich and can really help out. But if you really think about it, as you tie it back into a VLEC like ours, now you have complete control because you're wholesaling from us the actual numbers as well as tying into CPaaS, so making it a nice, tight program for you. Nice to meet y'all.
Great. So thank you, and it's great to have each of you on the panel. I'll give you a few numbers here to kick this off, and then we'll go into some questions. But if you look at some of the Gartner and Frost and Sullivan numbers right now, from now till 2022, UCaaS CAGR, compounded annual growth rate on the UCaaS side is projected to be 18% on a blended rate. When you look at CCaaS, contact center as a service, is projected to be 21% CAGR over the next 3 years. And you look at CPaaS, they have that projected to be 38% CAGR over the next 3 years. The CPaaS market, they have projected right now, they have it at 5% penetration which is nice long runway ahead here at 5% penetration. But 2022, they have that growing to 30% penetration on the CPaaS side. So that's substantial growth here. Right now you have UCaaS penetration about 24% blended, but it's quite a bifurcation between 36% penetration on the real small business under 10 seats, 17% on the mid, and 9% on large enterprise. Overall blended 24% rate penetration. So almost where UCaaS is today, CPaaS will be past that in the next 3 years. I mean, UCaaS will continue to grow as well, but just to get an idea of the market universe there 3 years from now, CPaaS will be a major player in this space, bigger than UCaaS is right now, actually. So, and UCaaS is also going to continue to grow. In fact, Gartner had a projection that 74% of all businesses who haven't yet chosen their UCaaS cloud provider will choose them in the next 2 years. So UCaaS is also going to be, continue to grow and do well. So, and you start to look at them, and a lot of these questions will have to do with, how do we look at these things? Are they all different applications? Are they bundles? Do they live under the same stack, natively? Do solutions become kind of combined between them? So, and because I've been in this 30 years, I have to wear these. You've only been 16. You probably don't need glasses yet, but I'll put them on. So, so one of those questions we'll start off here, going again left to right on, do you look at CPaaS, and how much do you look at CPaaS as a standalone offering? Do you see companies being built that are just, I'm your CPaaS provider, or do you see this as you're going to offer all these things and they really all become kind of a common solution under some collaboration umbrella or some application umbrella? Or does it started off with kind of, you had your Twilios, your Nexmos, your guys who are really selling, I'm a CPaaS almost traffic router, you could say, in the cloud. and now it becomes more solutions and becomes, you know, the ability to create not only a CPaaS solution but potentially interchange these with different CCaaS and UCaaS solutions. So.
Absolutely. That's actually been our experience from day one that we started in 2014. Companies primarily are looking for more of a hybrid approach. We haven't seen so much as CPaaS alone only, we just want to connect and do our thing. We've seen a lot more, hey, we want to be able to integrate certain APIs, which of course, as he alluded to, 2600 Hertz and Kazoo offers this rich API experience. But they also want to be able to do the simple things without having to integrate all of that into their systems. So they want a phone on the desk, here you go, we can control it from your portal, but when we want to be able to do the screen pop-ups and do lookups in our CRM, we want to be able to integrate into the API for that CPaaS experience, right? So it's been our experience that it's been more of a hybrid solution. It's not just a one and all. They want bits and pieces of each of the experience to be able to make their own solution and what makes them efficient and productive as a solution.
Yeah, I think the I saw a picture of the Legos, the bricks up earlier, and I look at CPaaS a lot like a kit, a toolkit. You know, Twilio and the guys that kind of started it. Bring it all together is very important, right? And becoming the glue, but giving us the tools, us being providers or companies that want to build things on these toolkits, I think is what's been driving innovation. So I absolutely see that continuing and creating easy toolkits for us to build these tools, I think is important.
Well, in our specific vertical industry, it's very interesting to observe how first people are looking to just get connected, and then the next one they ask for additional features. Recently we've been asked to provide a lot of call center functionality to hotels that want to do their own registrations and reservations. But all of the additional features like UC and call centers, we see it as being built on top of CPaaS. And in our industry, there is not a lot built right now, but we're building it on top of this Lego constructor kind of a system that 2600 providing. And it is a great experience so far. So there is a place for these prefabricated systems that generally provide a lot of common functions. But what we're trying to do is to create yet another set on top of basic building blocks so that we can sell to the hotel industry by combining and grouping different types of functionality. We have built probably 5 to 10 different plugins that perform functions that frankly industry has had for quite a long time, but only fancy systems could do that. The top end Mitels and others could perform them, but they cost thousands and thousands of dollars. So to answer the question, it's a combination, it's a hybrid approach like everybody's agreeing so far.
All right, yeah, so for me, probably about 3 years ago, I saw an infamous slide that showed what is UCaaS, CPaaS, and then you had all the, anything software as a service was attached to that iceberg, and at the top you would see those two names, but there's a lot of things attached to the bottom of it that grows it together. So ultimately it is going to come together. UCaaS is just the capability of, think about your CRM application or whatever application you're using, have the capability to, if you're looking from the sales side of the house, maybe you have a customer that calls in 10 or 12 times and you have a workflow in place that says, hey, when it hits 10 times, I want to go ahead and send out an alert. I want the alert to be, maybe it's a text, maybe it's a call, maybe it's building a conference call or even a web type solution where you're doing a video conferencing. That's where it's going to, and that's where it's going to make it hot. And that's what makes me wake up every morning and be happy to be in this the business, because there's so many use cases out there for this stuff. And it just takes one person to sit down and say, okay, I'm going to take the time and write it. And then away you go, because there's plenty of rich APIs.
All right. Thanks, Harold. And we'll start here on this side. I think when I think about how do you make money in this business and what's the model going to be that wins, because it's really all being defined still. And I think we've seen some interesting starts and false starts from different companies out there. I won't say names, but I think You had some who said, you know, and we'll talk more about this a little bit later, I'll just give licenses out, I'll post it in my cloud versus you host in your cloud versus I want to own the customers versus, you know, someone else own the customers. This comes into play a little bit. It's a different industry in that you look at, let's just say Twilio for now, who started off really saying, I'll just take all this traffic. And an Uber might go to a Twilio and say, you know, I'm going to pass all the CPaaS traffic through Twilio. And then there became more you know, platforms out there you could pass your traffic to. And now they kind of shop around. An ISV might build an application. An independent software vendor might say, I'm going to build an app that uses CPaaS, and I'm going to build it for your mobile phone. And then I'm going to go say, hey, you know, Twilio, how much will you charge me to pass the traffic to you? How much will you charge me, company B? And so the gross margins have actually been reduced as there becomes more and more competition for passing that traffic. So then it becomes, where do you want to play? Do you want to be a CPaaS platform that passes that traffic? Do you want to be an ISV that creates the solution? Do the guys who are actually platforms become ISVs, and do they go to the customers themselves and start to create the solutions and also keep the traffic on their own part? Does an ISV who's creating a solution actually start to look like the service provider and create the solution and own the customer, and just behind the scenes is passing the traffic through a different platform, right? Who ends up owning the customer, and who ends up really looking like the service provider, I guess, in the future? So some thoughts there.
Yeah, it's interesting because us, VoIP Innovations being a VLEC, we are kind of that mini service provider that we have our own range of numbers and things, and we have our own APIs so that people can actually get numbers from us. So what's interesting for us is if you think about origination and termination and toll-free and all that, those are more commodities nowadays, so there's a set number. You can get more things out of it by adding CNAM, E911, faxed email, things like that. But really and truly from our side, we're looking at a kind of a showroom concept where instead of getting the pennies on the origination and termination and all the fees, now we're talking about, hey, okay, they've got 10,000 phones. What if we're able to use 2,600 and use their UCaaS, put that on now, and they manage it themselves. So we're white labeled so that the company actually using us, it looks like they own the service all the way through the end. So we're getting our wholesale prices on our numbers and things, but we're tying in, because we're in the showroom, a cut of what's being done in the UCaaS and the CPaaS environment, which makes it a little bit interesting. Because again, getting $3 to $5 or even $2 a month per customer, as opposed to getting the money on the actual DID usage and the TFN usage, it's really a bigger number, and there's really a bigger cut there. And that's what a lot of the VLECs and the CLECs out there are thinking about now is, you know, we've let companies like Twilio and Nexmo and things be over the top and kind of taken the numbers, secured the numbers, and they're just kind of passing through that part of it, but ultimately they're taking control of the customer. So how do you get that back to, in our case, a lot of the wholesalers that we have, the resellers, they're looking at how do I get more tangible with our customer. Today I'm providing them lines and things, but I want to go ahead and provide the UCaaS portion of it. I don't want to deal with a Cisco or BroadSoft. I want to try to get a vendor that will enable me to do that. And so that's where I see it going at this point in time from our perspective.
So we are definitely one of the vendors that can take service and bring it to the industry. We've been looking at unified communications, and to rephrase or reuse some definitions from yesterday's panel, we see it more as business communications at this point. And our specialty is to go in and look at the interaction of all of the customers, all of the roles that they have in their company, specifically in hotels, and we consider guests in the hotels as customers as well. And the value that we draw from reselling the platform is the add-ons, the ability to adapt to their specific needs. And they value that because everybody comes in at the same price, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. We can compete on price, but we're not as big as many others. And if the price is the same, the customers will usually go to the biggest name that they can find, whether their service record is good, whether service record is bad. But what we do, we go in, we analyze their interactions, and we say, how can we save you costs? How can we help you avoid mistakes, human mistakes? Because you insert humans into the software path or software into the human path, and then you're bound to start having some problems. So when we show the savings, when we show many other efficiencies, improvements for the hotel owners and whole property management companies, we're able to turn it around and say, this is not about the price. This is not about making calls. This is about not just delivering voice and text, but it's also opening up a channel to initiate brand new type of interaction. So we talked about earlier today about texts being used in the hotel industry, and now they kind of are going away because it may become annoying. But there are paths that we've discovered that we can use the communication, we use the platform to initiate the interaction and then shift it to whatever realm, whatever context it's going to be important and meaningful.
Great. So yeah, so the ISVs, I think, absolutely play a crucial role, you know, in this game, right? So the CPaaS providers are providing a toolkit. The ISVs are putting it all together and creating products that can be utilized by companies. And even though I'm a UCaaS provider, I guess I'm an ISV as well, because I've created applications, and so is everybody else on this panel. Again, we do a lot of work with retail and restaurants. One of our biggest customers, a huge chain of Pizza Huts. It's one franchisee, they own 1,200 of them, and we're in all of them, so it's a large franchisee. And so we've developed a number of custom applications for them, both on the reporting side as well as the real-time calling. And so they came to us recently, and we're in all the locations, but then they have a call center, 300 people or so, and now that I saw Call Center Pro, I'm going to go pitch that to them, but they've got a big fancy Avaya PBX with a call center they put in years ago, and as you know, that gets pretty complex. We forward calls that come in to the stores after a few rings over to the call center, but wouldn't it be cool to dip and pull up that customer's information in their PBX? And what's going to enable that? It's these tools that are out here. So it's not just the 2600 hertz or the Kazoo. Is it CAS? Kazoo as a service? Is that what we have to call it now? But it's not just that toolkit that's been provided via APIs, but it's Twilio. It's the text messaging APIs from other companies that we may dip in. It's RTC web clients and things like that. So I think it's great that we've got all these options and they're all kind of coming together, and we're able to. The answer was yes, I can help you build that. I don't know how yet, but somebody will figure it out. Probably Brian, who's sitting right over there.
And if you do add AAS to any word, the value goes up, right? So you got to do that. So. That's right.
I'm a firm believer that fighting over price is just a race to the bottom, and it was never a winner. I think that companies care about price, but companies also care about value, and companies will pay for something that they deem valuable. If you deliver a solution that actually helps them conduct business, make them productive, make them efficient, they're willing to pay for it. And they won't necessarily go out there and compare you to everybody else. If they feel that they're getting a company that values them as a customer, doesn't treat them with indifference, and is able to provide a serious solution that they can grow with, they'll go with you. It's really that simple. Naturally, as Vinix, as a provider, we'd love to end the end user. That'd be great. And we try to do so any chance we get. However, we do understand the value in partnerships with MSPs and IT companies where, as a matter of fact, I saw you give a talk last year in DC, and I stole one of your taglines that I use in all my pitches, the one throat to choke. Companies like that. It's all fun and games when we're playing with all these integrations, but for a regular company that does business outside of telecom, whether it's real estate or medical or hospitality or whatever it is, they're not interested in all these little integrations and things. They just want it to work, and they want to be able to focus on what it is that they do business. And that's our job as telecom specialists and professionals, to deliver that solution to them. And when something breaks, they don't want to hear about, oh, well, it was the underlying upstream carrier, and they just want to go to you. They want you to provide the solution. And when you're partnering with MSPs and IT people, those end users are going to go to them when they deliver your solution. So even if they're providing the tier one and you're giving them a discount, that's your customer, is the MSP or the IT company, not necessarily the end user. If you make that IT or MSP happy and enabling them to provide the proper solution to the end user, then they're going to rely on you for all their customers. So, yeah, we love owning the end user, but at the end of the day, all of our customers are important, and we want to make sure every one of them are delivering the right solutions to their customers if they have any down the stream.
Okay, excellent. Well, and I morphed from one throat to choke to one back to Pat. Just taking that positive stance. I actually own onebacktopat.com now, so yeah, I don't know what to do with it, but you know, $6 on GoDaddy, you got to get it. So. That's right. We want to pretend that they all love us, though, right? Yeah. So that's our goal, to get to that point. But and I don't know if the questions you can't see up on the, maybe switch to the next set. Yeah. But so a couple other questions, and I'm gonna, on these, I'll just, if you have a comment, ask for the mic. If you don't, that's fine too, because we're going to try and get through a few more questions to still leave. We've got about 10 minutes left. Still leave like 3 minutes for questions from the audience, and if not, we'll go to another question here. But so going to the models, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but you have these different choices of models. Is it from a CPaaS kind of provider model? Is it better to have just licenses that you give to people and let them do their own thing? A little bit 2600 Hertz is doing for many of you. Do you that then enables a lot of distribution, enables a lot of people to be their own service providers, or is there advantage to have it in their own cloud and sell essentially seats on the network like the UCaaS model is to a great degree, right? Or do you have some hybrid in between to where, 2600 Hertz, I understand, does kind of all of them. It's like, here you go, you can just buy a license, or we'll host it in our cloud, or you can just do it all yourself, and host it in your own cloud. But any thoughts on the model? And if you want to comment,
sure.
Go ahead. So
yeah, I mean, I think the easiest is when you break it down to kind of the lowest bit. And obviously we all on options. My favorite is the AWS, the Amazon Web Service model. So consumption based, I think, is the easiest. If I can buy as a provider, if I can buy at the smallest unit and then put together exactly what I'm going to sell to my customers, it doesn't have to match how I'm buying. Right? It's actually similar. I don't necessarily sell on a per device basis like I buy from 2600 Hertz or per server, depending on how you're set up. I charge for things they don't charge me for. I don't charge for things they do charge me for. So I think it's easiest to charge based on utilization, actual consumption, just like AWS, and then I can figure out what it takes to put something together to then package up and sell to customers.
you create your own secret sauce, and
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, your value prop. Okay. Any others?
Yeah, I was going to add that there's another kind of a perspective to this, is what's your core competency, and if you're in telecom, specifically in the lines and the delivery of the service, then definitely rolling your own, buying a license and doing it yourself is a big deal. If you're more into writing software and addressing vertical industry like we do, for us it makes total sense to basically just get hosted service from 2600 and let professionals do what they do best.
Yeah, on our side, we do both, so we allow you to roll your own, as well as we know that the packaged products, one of the things that I've seen over the years with other companies that I've been with, the Twilers of the world really just built a package, so you can just go drop in the number and boom, you're using it. So automatically you have a texting package. Automatically you have a spooling package if you want to do messaging. And so you got to have both sides of it, because today, as APIs are everywhere, as you've heard on the panel, at the end of the day, if you want to use us or use somebody else, you actually can write your script in whatever language you want. You just have to adapt so that when you're doing the communications back to that API, that you map back to it. So that's what I've been seeing, is a lot of customers that we have, or resellers that we have, that are the ISVs that are actually creating these applications. They're adopting them so you can use them on Twilio, you can use them on 2600, you can use them on our API days. So there's plenty of places that you can plug and play it in. And those are the ones that are really the core companies out there that are adopting sooner. I think we'll see a lot more of that, where they're going to start chasing that quality of service, where whoever gives them the best throughput and really can handle the objectives that they want and get it out and make sure that it does get delivered is really where it's going to go to.
Okay, and then the next question is where's this all going? I said earlier some of the numbers there in the next 3 years, 2022, It'll be up to about 30% of the market, a compound annual growth rate of 38% over the next 3 years. So lots going to happen. What's it look like 3 years from now as we see this thing actually having more penetration than UCaaS does today? What do we think that offering looks like? What do customers see CPaaS doing for them as we look out 3 years? And I know earlier this morning I was theorizing and brainstorming with Phil Edholm, who's great visionary in this whole space, and it's really intriguing all the different paths this could take and what this could end up looking like 3 years from now, and I think it'll be very exciting whichever path it goes. But I wanted to get your thoughts on what do you see this looking like from a provider standpoint and from the consumer standpoint 3 years from now? Why would they want this, and what would it look like?
Yeah, so 3 years ago I sat in a training class with a lot of executives, all of SVPs, and there was probably about 300-400 of them. And one of the things we were talking about is IoT. And so we had the execs, of course, they had a couple of drinks before they did our little test that we were doing. So they came up with, I'm at a bar, and I want to make sure that my drink is full all the time. So you have a little IoT device that's on the side of the glass, and when it gets to a certain level, you get another drink. It's really that ridiculous, but it's actually conceptual. So if you think about CPaaS and you think about all the different data elements that are out there and how you can pull them together at any time and any point, it's just amazing what you can do with this. Simple things like, I've got a child that's going to school. I want to make sure that on their backpack they got a dongle, so I know when they get on the bus, when they get off the bus, what stop they got. Things like that are already in production now today. They're kind of smaller, they're not really big, but you're going to have things like that. I mean, the follow me in a retail store, today they already know where you're at. Most of them have their own little mini wireless that's there that's grabbing the information. I've done a lot of decks on this across all industries, and it's just really exciting as to the things that you can do. And then how do you take that data and pull it in? So IoT's big thing is you're going to get all this data. What are you going to do with it? And folks like AT&T 5 or 6 years ago kind of jumped into the business and started capturing it. Everybody is. So now what do you do with that? How do you take that and spin it? And how do you get programs that enhance your sell-through and enhance your ability to capture what the customer needs, as well as taking care of your end user customers in the CPaaS and the UCaaS space? How can you tie that together and make their experience pretty much seamless? And at what point in time is it more, I mean, I've always had a problem with the term AI because I've been in the business with machine learning, and I've been through the companies that actually have voice techniques based on different things. So it's just interesting how you can bring that all together and move it forward. So 3 years from now, it's going to be even more exciting, because if you think about it, for it to grow that much, we're definitely going to discover new ways to pull these things together and to bring the information to the fingertips of agents, individual people, so that they can better take care of their customer and actually increase their throughput in their business.
Thank you. And other thoughts?
I think the next couple of years is crucial, especially in our business, in our industry. And I think the number one scope of what we need to focus on as providers, partners, VARs, whatever you are, is customer experience. I watched Dave Gilbert give a talk yesterday, and he hit the nail on the head. I mean, at the end of the day, over the next few years, customers are going to become much more informed with the internet and the advancement of all of these telecoms, and they're not going to tolerate all the complexity that we deal with. They just want it to plug and play, and they want the experience to be seamless. And as other competitors out there deliver those solutions, they're going to expect it more and more. Telecom has had this culture shift over the last couple of decades, where customers prior to that just didn't have any choice. They had to choose from half a dozen big iron telecoms. They all pretty much did the same thing, and it was really about which account manager was treating you better, right? That's all changed. The revolution has been here, and we're all in it. And it's really who's going to deliver a solution and educate the customer as to what they can actually do with all this beautiful, cool stuff that we've been building. And that's who's going to be the winner. And that's what everybody's going to go after the next couple of years, and customers are going to be looking for, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any other?
Yeah, I was going to add a little bit more from the developer perspective, from the VAR that builds on top of the CPaaS, and not necessarily from the user perspective. It is important to continue developing the API and start looking into the standards like Open API and potentially expose APIs that are designed to integrate with other services. Create some standards and look at the transactions that will allow for tighter and seamless integration, much like yesterday we looked at the single sign-on where the data sets are standardized or at least compatible across multiple systems, and as well as the interaction methods. Open API adds that, but there's a distinction between the API that you need to build a nice app versus the API that you need to integrate with other services. And going in that direction, especially in 2600 world where they don't necessarily sell yet to the customers, it's important for the developers to have ability to access both APIs, to build your own UI so you own customer 100%, or to have an API that you can plug in seamlessly, almost using Zapier-like services or your own code that acts as Zapier on a level that is very easy to utilize, and that will open up entirely different door. It could cut out my job as an integrator and make anybody on the street able to integrate voice services with anything they want, but it's where the industry is headed. Everybody's publishing their endpoints on Zapier and things like that, so I think that's also important.
Okay, and I think we're about at our time here, but if there's a burning question out there from the audience, I want to give you a chance to ask that. Any questions? Anyone want to pose something here that's burning within you? Okay. If not, we'll end then. And again, I want to thank all our panelists. Some great comments here, and I think insight into CPaaS today and CPaaS where it's going and the different models. So let's have a hand for all of our panelists. Thank you.